Welcome to this new video, the 21st episode about transforming a laundry room into a bathroom. And if you happen to come across this video and this channel, welcome. I created a playlist for the occasion where you'll find all the previous episodes, from demolishing the laundry room to installing the ceiling, insulation, drywall, bathtub, and shower tray. And previously I made a sliding door that I removed to mud the wall, paint it, and hang it up permanently. Since I'm moving back step by step, I need to install the bathroom door and a closet next to it. Naturally, this door opens the wrong way and gets in my way. I know it makes no sense to paint the wall before the bathroom is finished. I can now move forward, hang the door permanently, and leave this wall section alone. Since I'll paint here, I'll also paint behind me and the ceiling, then install the lighting. And so after that, I'll be able to build my closet, the bathroom door, and keep working on the bathroom. But the hallway will be more or less finished. So if you enjoy my videos, the best way to support me is to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell to get new videos, and give a big thumbs up. You can also follow me on Instagram. I post photos and videos regularly. So this video is in partnership with Monsieur Bricolage. In the previous video, I went to the Montoir-sur-le-Loir store for some joint compound. We did the taping and the complete skim coating of the drywall. I got matte paint cans for the ceiling and velvet finish for the walls. Everything you need for painting. The rollers, the brushes, the handy little extension pole, the bucket right here. I'll show you everything. So the team at Monsieur Bricolage welcomed me very warmly, and what we're all looking for, whether we're individuals or professionals, is proximity, helpfulness, advice, and of course the products. I'll test the velvet paint on the walls and matte on the ceiling, then share my opinion at the end of the video. In the last video, we mudded, taped, and skim coated these two panels. The ceiling was already finished. That video is in the playlist. You can't see any of the flaws anymore, nor the screw heads, nor the joint tape. The whole point of skim coating is to make the surface uniform. Since my drywall panel is made of paper and the joints are compound, even with the best compound in the world, if you don't skim coat the entire drywall, you'll paint after it dries and you've sanded. You will always see the difference since the drywall has a different texture than the joints. Now I have a uniform look that's exactly the same. I can paint no matter what roller I use, no matter what paint I use. I'll have exactly the same look. You won't see the joint tape at all anymore. Before you start painting, the key is preparation. On the job site, you need as much light as possible. A single bulb in the middle of the room isn't enough. You need at least a work light. At least you can see where you're working, you can see where you're stepping, and most importantly, you can see all the flaws. Having as much light as possible is really very important. Walls and ceilings must be clean, holes filled, and most flaws covered. Paint won't hide imperfections unless you apply 5 coats of paint and get a textured finish, but that's not the goal. Here, we're not trying to get a mirror finish, it's pointless. I learned that myself. I was the first to want a perfect wall. But when you have kids at home, after a month or two, it's over. Fingerprints, dents in the walls. So we're aiming for a neat finish, but we're not aiming for perfection. It's absolutely pointless. And if you have any doubts about possible flaws on your wall or ceiling, the best thing is not to waste time with compound. Just go ahead and apply the primer coat right away. You paint and all the flaws will show up. Let the paint dry thoroughly. Then you fix the flaws with compound. You sand, put on another coat of paint and see how it looks. And once you've got the result you want, it's very important to clean everything up. Use a microfiber cloth and a vacuum cleaner. Even vacuum the walls and the ceiling. Go over everything again with the microfiber cloth. And as long as your hands are white and covered in compound, you need to keep cleaning. It's crucial, otherwise the paint won't adhere. So based on your floor, you must cover it. Whether it's tile, solid wood flooring, laminate, or even vinyl, you need to protect it. Here, I'm working on a concrete slab. It could be concrete, but you also need to protect it because if you paint and your roller goes down onto the concrete and you pick up grit into the paint and onto the wall, that's guaranteed to be a nightmare. Place cardboard at floor level if it's concrete. Paint on the concrete isn't a big issue, but use cardboard to prevent the roller from touching it. If it's a concrete slab, same thing, put down some cardboard. And if it's a tiled floor, hardwood, vinyl, whatever, you protect it and that will save you from having to scrape and clean everything. So, regarding the tools, we need the magic tool that every painter has in their toolbox, which is the painter's tool or the multi-purpose knife. It allows you to scrape, remove nails, scrape the roller to get as much paint off as possible, and also to open paint cans. We'll use it in a moment. Of course, we need a brush for cutting in. We need the roller, meaning the sleeve plus the frame. Now this roller is a bit special because it comes with an airtight box. Let me show you. There, I can remove the frame from the sleeve, and the sleeve is in the box. It's an airtight box. Here, you can keep your sleeve full of paint for several weeks and it absolutely won't dry out. So, for a quick demonstration, I'll put the frame back on. We're good. We have plenty of other walls. The sleeve is full of paint. I take my box, I put the sleeve in the box, I press down and take out the frame, I close the box. We put the little cap on top and now we can keep it for several weeks. Of course, it's a specific frame that goes with the roller, but you can also find just the roller with the box. And if you don't have this frame, you take your roller and put it in the box. And if you don't have this box, you take an airtight box. That will work perfectly. And if you don't have an airtight box, the solution is to use plastic wrap. You wrap the roller in it, seal it tightly, and you'll be able to keep it the same way. For several weeks, it's the same for the brush. You take the brush, wrap it in plastic wrap, tie a little knot at the end, and you're good to go. So, regarding the roller cover, there are several types depending on the paint. Acrylic paint or solvent-based paint will not use the same roller cover. And depending on the thickness of the pile or the fiber, here, it's a microfiber roller cover. This one is 10 millimeters, which works perfectly for me. They also come in 12 millimeters and 5 millimeters. And the shorter it is, the less paint it will hold. But on the other hand, you'll get a very smooth finish. And the longer the pile or the fiber, the more texture it will create. So you need to try to find a balance depending on the room. If it's to paint a garage with walls in bad condition, you can use a long pile roller. It really doesn't matter. It will create some texture, but it's just a garage wall. If you want to paint the ceiling of a bedroom, a living room, or a bathroom, and you want a smooth finish, you'll need to use a roller with a very short pile. But on the other hand, you'll have to reload it much more often. And the problem with today's paints is that they're acrylic, so they dry very quickly. So you might end up with streaks. You need to find the right balance depending on the paint and the room you want to paint, and also depending on the result you want. Next, we have the bucket or paint pail. You can also put a grid in the paint can, but personally, I really prefer to pour it in, close the can to prevent it from drying out and forming crusts that fall into the paint. Then, you dip your roller in it and load it with paint. The best thing is really to put just the amount of paint you need in your tray. So, this one is a Nespoli. We have a grid to remove the excess. You use the roller, and then at the back you can hang, you see my brush, so it doesn't drip on the floor, it falls into the tray. And if the handle of your brush or your paintbrush is wider, here I can clip it in. It holds by itself. So it's pretty good. Everything I'm showing you, you'll find the links in the description to the Monsieur Bricolage website. And you'll find exactly the same tools that I used. Last thing, masking tape, very important. The frames. Now this one I don't care at all because the door is going away. But the PVC door, that's another story. I'm going to go around it. And as I was saying earlier, we cover the floor. Now I'm not going to do it because I'm just going to put a piece of cardboard at the bottom of the wall. I'm on a slab. So if any paint drips, it's not a big deal. But if you have tile or hardwood flooring, you protect it with plastic sheeting. So now all that's left is to show you the paint. We're going to use a primer first. Next, we'll tackle the ceiling with a matte paint and we'll finish with satin paint on the walls. So, to start, we're using a universal primer from the brand Inventive. And the advantage of the primer is that it helps regulate how much the surface absorbs. So it will become much less porous. I'll use less finishing paint. So the other advantage of the primer is for wallpaper. It allows the glue to stick better. And most importantly, when you want to remove your wallpaper one day, you'll be glad you applied a primer. Because removing wallpaper from a plaster wall or drywall is a nightmare. So always apply a primer before putting up your wallpaper. Now, two last tips before applying the paint. The first is to tint the primer. Because white on white, I won't see much. Add a few drops of colorant to get a light gray. At least this way, I'll see where I'm rolling with the roller. And the last tip is to start with the ceiling. If I'm applying colored paint to my walls, I start with the walls. And then I think with white paint on the ceiling, if there's any splatter on the walls, I can redo the walls. But with a spray gun, it's the opposite. Start with the walls and finish with the ceiling since it's easier to mask a wall than a ceiling. For primer, the order doesn't matter. It's the same for both walls and ceiling. And for the finishing coat, I'll start with the ceiling using matte paint and we'll finish with the walls using eggshell paint. Earlier, I was telling you about the painter's multifunction tool for opening paint cans, the 5-in-1. We have this part that allows, you see, to simply lift the tab of the lid. Or you can do it like this, like that. It's your choice. You need to be gentle. Breaking the tabs is pointless. The idea then is to close the can and make sure it's airtight. So, we're going to tint our primer, just a few drops of colorant, and then we'll mix it all at a slow speed. With the mixer attached to the drill, that's more than enough. We go at a slow speed. And then we let it rest for a few minutes. And during that time, while it's resting, we're going to clean the roller. You'll see. So, my primer is ready. And honestly, I haven't tested it yet, but I think it's good quality. You can tell by the thickness of the paint. Here, we're not dealing with a paint that's just water. Some paints, honestly, from big box stores, that's where you might get worried thinking, I'm going to buy paint from a big box store, and often it's just watery. But that's not the case here at all. You can see it's quite thick. So, we're going to apply our primer. And like I said, for now, we're going to clean the roller. For our roller, the goal is to clean it by removing all fibers that could get stuck in the paint. We have several solutions, at least two options. Either we take some strong tape, wrap it around, pull on the tape, and all the fibers stick to the tape. Or we use double-sided tape that will stick onto the board. We make several strips and then we simply roll the sleeve over it and all the fibers stick to the double-sided tape. So that's what we're going to do. We take some double-sided tape. We'll clean first. When the double-sided tape is ready, grab the roller. And here, you can feel it sticking. That's normal. And you can see that the fibers stay stuck to the double-sided tape. And there you go, there you go. Now that it's ready, if your sleeve isn't beveled on the edges, you can make small cuts with scissors, but normally, most of the time now, they're already cut at the factory. So you don't need to do it, but it's very important to do this. The more fibers you remove from the sleeve, the fewer there will be in the paint. So, for cutting in, we're working on the primer. It's exactly the same for the ceiling as for the wall. I poured some paint into a container. You take a bottle, cut it in half, and at least you can carry that
by hand.
So we take the brush.
We take a bit of paint.
And we brush the corner. So, at first it's going to be very dry. Since of course the surface is porous, you feel like you're not putting any paint on, and that it doesn't glide at all. It will be much better for the second coat, so the finishing coat. I'm going over on this side intentionally. Normally I'd close it off with drywall panels so the wall wouldn't be visible, but I'm still doing it. Because I don't want to leave something unfinished behind the sliding door. And so, you see the advantage of having tinted the primer? It's that I know where I'm putting the paint. First, it's better for the video so you can see what I'm doing. Like I said, with white on white, you can't see anything. And honestly, for a primer, it covers very well. And there's no point in pressing down on the brush. It's the bristles that do the work. Normally, as soon as I finish cutting in, the brush should be clean. I shouldn't have paint all around the ferrule. That's completely pointless. Here, I'm just gliding the brush. It's a job that requires patience, but honestly, it's enjoyable to do. I really don't mind doing it at all. So here, the goal is really to take your time to enjoy painting. There's no point in getting frustrated. Painting while thinking about an upcoming appointment in 15 minutes is pointless. You're going to rush the job. And honestly, you can even enjoy painting. I find it quite relaxing. So when it comes to the frames, you can do the acrylic caulk before or after. I always do it last. I apply my paint, so the primer, the finishing coat, and then the acrylic caulk all along. So acrylic or polymer caulk, we'll talk about that in a future video. Right now, what I want to do is cut in along the frame without touching the frame. If you don't want to bother, you can use masking tape. And here, we try to do it without touching the PVC. If we do touch it, it's not a big deal. A quick wipe with a sponge and it comes right off. So you need to take your time. There's no point in getting frustrated. We do a first coat, let's say a few millimeters from the frame, and then after that we get closer. Since there's already some paint, it slides much more easily. We gently rotate the brush. Minor mud imperfections at the edge are normal since I'll have an acrylic caulk there. I don't need to have a perfect finish on the mud and the woodwork. And the advantage of doing the caulking last here, it's that I can slightly push the bristles of the brush behind the woodwork. So now that the corners are cut in at the ceiling and the wall, and I've done around the woodwork, we can take the roller, meaning the sleeve and the frame. I take the roller, I snap it in, it's snapped in. If I need to unsnap it, I turn the ring and take it off, okay? The advantage of the pole is that you don't need a step ladder, so it goes much faster and I move away from the surface. So on the wall, there will be fewer splatters. On the ceiling, there might be some splatters, of course, since I'm right underneath, but on a wall, I'll move away from it, so fewer splatters. So the pole is essential, especially for high ceilings. Don't bother with step ladders and trying to balance. Just use a pole, paint, and at least you'll be safe. So here, the goal is to load the roller with paint. You dip it, you roll off the excess, you dip it again, you roll off the excess until there's as much paint on it as possible and it doesn't drip on the floor. What you need is for it to be well loaded so you can spread it evenly on the ceiling, otherwise you'll get streaks. The best thing is to practice on an old door, an old board, or a piece of cardboard before starting on the area you want to paint. So you position yourself roughly in the middle of the length or width of your room, it doesn't matter, and you spread it out completely. Don't press down on the roller. The roller does the work. The first roller strokes are tricky since there's not enough paint loaded. So you really have to, it's just the primer, so it doesn't really matter. But still, that's why it's good to practice with a primer on an old door, an old board, or a piece of cardboard. Here and there, I have some little fibers from the roller. We don't touch them at all, they'll go away. Because I'm going to lightly sand between the primer and the finishing coat. And we continue. We go slowly, we take our time, we don't get frustrated. As I mentioned, this is the primer. There's no point in trying to do things perfectly. What we want is just to seal the surface. So here, knowing that I'm painting across the width of the room on the shorter side, I could have done it lengthwise. There's no window, there's no light coming through. So actually, I don't really care. And once again, I know I'm repeating myself, but there's no point in pressing down on the roller. It's the roller that does the work. I'm glad I tinted it, otherwise you couldn't have seen anything, white on white. You might have guessed something. But honestly, it's a great paint. Well, as a primer, it's great, the roller is great. There, I have absolutely no regrets. For now, everything is going very well. So for the walls, it's exactly the same as for the ceiling. We're going to load the roller well. We start in the middle, we go down, we go up, we go down, we go up until we reach the ceiling and the floor. Now I'm going to stop before the slab. It's pointless since I have to redo the screed and then deal with baseboards. Then I'll film it for you with a wider angle.
I'll start over here. Up.
Let's go slowly. We're going all the way up. We go up, we go down. And there, when it doesn't cover well on the sides, it means there's not enough paint, so you need to reload the roller. Painting with a pole is essential because it saves time and eliminates the need for ladders. Using the pole is just pure joy. And this paint spreads really well. I don't know if you can see, but there are few drips and no splatters. The frame stays clean. So the paint and roller are actually good quality. You may think I'm repeating myself, but take your time. There's no need to get frustrated. You have to go slowly. Let the roller glide. And it's going very well. Now I barely have any lint left in the paint. But actually it's just a matter of patience. I could do this all day because I find it so satisfying to do. You should avoid painting over areas already covered. I'm doing it now since it's just the primer, but for the finishing coat, never repaint areas you've already done. We're doing this panel now. You have a wider angle, otherwise I'd need to move the camera into the street to capture everything, which would be complicated and not show much. We'll start with the middle. We go down, we go up, we go down and we go up, and it practically paints itself. Here, it's important to clean the switches well. You've removed them. We have the plaster. It's important to clean thoroughly so that no piece of plaster gets back into the paint with the roller. I'll leave it like this for now. I need to install a double partition at the back of the closet. Alright, the ceiling and the walls are done, and you saw zero splatter. I didn't get a single spot on myself. There's not a drop on the floor. This is due to the quality of the paint, roller and pole. The pole lets you move away from the surface, reducing the chance of splattering your clothes. So, I cleaned the roller because I'm keeping it. I had to clean it well since I tinted the paint, and now I'm going back to white paint for the ceiling and white for the walls. So, it's going to be matte on the ceiling and velvet finish on the walls. Now, I'll need to use some sandpaper as soon as it's dry. Grit 600, I don't want to strip the paint, it's just to smooth out the little fibers. I have 3 or 4 at most. So, we'll wait 6 to 8 hours for the primer to dry. Then I'll apply the finishing coat. For you, it's going to be right away. But for me, the advantage of having done it in the morning is that I can wait 8 hours. So let's say at 6 or 7 p.m. tonight, or even after dinner. I can apply the finishing coat and it will have time to dry overnight, and tomorrow morning I'll apply the second finishing coat. So let's say in 24 hours you can put on 3 coats of paint. So here, for example, we have a small flaw. It was a hair from the roller that I removed, but it dried in the paint. So we take 400 grit sandpaper. I don't know why earlier I told you 600. It's 400, doesn't matter. A small wooden block. And there we go, it's perfect. So of course we remove all the dust thoroughly. And now I can roll over it again. I won't have any more imperfections. So we take the brush again, and this time the goal is not to touch the wall. If you touch it a little, it's not a big deal. Since it's going to be white on white, you see, if I put 2 or 3 millimeters of matte paint on the wall, it's not a big deal. If it were colored paint, it would be more complicated. So now it's another game of patience. Let's go, let's keep moving. I'm not cleaning the roller between the ceiling and walls, just squeezing it out well. But since I'm working with white paint and in this area, I'm supposed to put up a partition so the door can slide behind it. If I start with a mix of matte and velvet paint, it won't show. And after, let's say, 3 or 4 passes with the roller, it won't be visible at all. I'll only have velvet paint left. So that's it for the cutting in. You get the idea? You just need to take your time and do it carefully. For the primer, I rolled in this direction. This time for the finishing coat, I'm going to roll the first pass in this direction. And for the second pass, I'll come back in this direction, okay? So it's important to cross the passes, but not during the application. We wait for it to dry. We do it in one direction for the first coat, wait for it to dry, and then in the other direction. So we always go gently. We position ourselves in the middle. We move forward, and we come back. And it's always a real pleasure to apply. Honestly, the paint is great. And here, I'm trying not to touch the walls on either side. So for the purposes of the video, of course, I tinted the primer, so obviously I'll need to apply 2 coats. But honestly, if the primer is white, really white, like it was here, then just 1 coat of matte paint on the ceiling would have been enough. So for the doors or windows, when it comes to the finishing coat, what I did was I used 400 grit sandpaper where I had used the brush with the primer. So I go along the whole length with the brush, and then with the mini roller I smooth out the brush strokes. So I don't intentionally get too close to the frame with the mini roller, but I just do this. So it's the same nap length to achieve the same look. And here it breaks up
The brush strokes. You see, it's not complicated.
So here for the walls, unlike the ceiling I told you I did it one way, then the other way, and we'll come back for the second finishing coat in that direction. For the walls, we do everything in the same direction. You understand that it's complicated to take the step ladder, climb up and do it like this. It's better to do everything in the same direction, especially since here I don't have any light in this room, there's no light coming through, so it doesn't matter. So we continue. So 30. The roller. We start with the middle. So here, the outlet is in my way, but we'll manage. The outlet, the switch, for example. And we go up to the top and come back down. And it spreads out by itself. It's pure joy to do. There you go, you leave me all alone in rooms that are 200 square meters. I'm going to spend my days there full time. If the paint is good quality, of course. Okay, the first finishing coat is done. The ceiling, the walls, we let it dry well for 6 to 8 hours or even more. The longer it dries, the better. Now I have to wait until 11:30 p.m. to apply the second coat. I'm not taking out the rollers and brushes at 11:30 p.m., so it'll wait until morning. For you, it's immediate. I'm really happy with the result. I shouldn't have tinted the primer. One finishing coat would have sufficed. Now, since I tinted it, it does look grey. The white goes on top. We'll put on a second coat and the result will be perfect. It's good. Alright, the painting is done. Both on the ceiling and the wall, I put on 2 coats, and honestly, 1 coat would have been more than enough. But since I tinted the primer, I had to put at least 2 finishing coats. But as you saw, white on white, you can't see anything at all. So it was a good idea to tint the primer, at least you were able to see the difference. So, the paint from Monsieur Bricolage, I invite any professional to try it. Honestly, it's really great quality. I'm absolutely not disappointed. You'll see it again in other videos. I'll just have to install the sliding door, the fittings, the rail, and hang it up for good. And I won't take it down anymore. That's why I really needed to make progress on this panel. For now, I'm setting the door aside while the paint dries. And then, like I said, I'll hang the rail. For the PVC door, I still need to apply the acrylic caulk, but I'll wait for the paint to dry first. I'll do the other caulking then too, so I can finish them all together. We'll meet again soon for more videos. The bathroom, the garden shed outside, I'll talk to you about those very soon. There are going to be some changes. And for the bathroom, I need to make progress on the closet, the door, the plumbing, and so on. Thank you for watching this video. We'll see each other again very soon. In the meantime, take care.